We are live right here on the Shows of Giants YouTube channel. As you know, I'm Joseph Ward. And we have a special guest today, so it's not just me talking today. I have a special guest, a brother that I've actually been talking about on this channel for a while, and I just thought it would be fitting to introduce him and also get into a topic that we had a great discussion about a while ago on my podcast when we're talking about organization. So this brother's name is Agyei Tyehimba. He is the founder of the Harlem Liberation School. And welcome, my brother. Welcome to my own Shows of Giants channel.
Thank you, brother. And thank you for using your platform and inviting me to your platform. I appreciate you, good brother.
No problem, no problem. I appreciate what you do for your community and all the time and effort that you've put in to help to uplift and empower your community. So my hat goes off to you for what you've been doing, and I'm just trying to do my best to follow in the footsteps that you've laid out. So
Appreciate that, man. Well, then we are doing the same thing, brother, because I have many great jegnas, man. I'm still trying to catch him, brother. It's good. It might take me another lifetime to catch him, but that's a good
yes,
thing.
sir.
It's a good thing to be thinking like that. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I mean, I feel like our community, we have the potential to do so much, but we lack true understanding of what's really going on. I know I have conversations all the times with my friends about the system of white supremacy, being able to really understand what it is, how it affects us. You know, studying Neely Fuller, studying Amos Wilson, Dr. Francis Course Wilson, and all of the greats, but really putting it into context from what we're dealing with in today's standpoint. So I want to kind of deal with that point before we get further into organization. So from your experience and from your wisdom and knowledge, can you kind of give your breakdown of what the system of white supremacy is and how it affects our system and our people?
Yes, sir. From my understanding, white supremacy is a global system that works in 9 different areas of human activity. But for the casual listener and viewer, let's just say it works in every major area of human activity,
Okay.
right? To to subjugate, divide, confuse, murder, and exploit the labor of black people
Right.
or so-called non-white people.
Right. Right.
And
And
some people will call it racism, some will call it sexism, some will
uh,
call it classism. But the point is, these are just different manifestations or expressions of white supremacy.
right. Right. Now,
Imperialism, yeah, all
right,
of that.
right, right, right. Now, I like how you put the piece on about the global system, because I always have conversations. Well, not always, but I often have conversations with people who talk about leaving America and escaping the system of white supremacy through leaving America, but not really having a full understanding that the system of white supremacy was intact before America was formed. It actually helped in the formation of America. So, can you kind of excuse me? Can you kind of expound on that a bit about the global system of white supremacy?
Yes, sir, I can do that very simply and briefly. If you're a black coon or a Negro who thinks that you're going to escape the borders of the United States and go to some other country to escape white supremacy, I need to tell you that the only real difference fundamentally is that you'll go to France and you'll be dealing with a white supremacist with a French accent that says "Oui, oui, mademoiselle."
Right,
And
right,
if you go to Germany, you'll be dealing with a German white supremacist with a German accent. Hail Hitler! Wherever you
right.
go, that concept is in place. It's in full effect. It's in
Right.
full effect. So there's no escaping it by running away. The only way we deal with problems is run to them. We run to your
Yes.
problem. You deal with it like a man and woman head on using intellect, study, and organization. That's the only way through this.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree. We have to put ourselves in a position to win. And until we understand that, we're going to keep being, frustrated and just lacking true understanding of what's really going on around us, and believing that nothing will change. Things can change because we've seen it with our ancestors. Even in these lands, we've seen that if we stand up and we do what we need to do and we're organized, we can make real change. So,
That's right.
so you have a book, you put a book out, and the name of the book is The Blueprint, a BSU handbook teaching Black student activists how to organize and lead. And you put that book out in 2013. And like I said, the last time we had a conversation, you were telling me that you didn't just write that book because you came up with a great idea to write a book. You wrote that book off of experience. So why is organization in the Black community important in your opinion?
That's an excellent question, Brother Joseph. Our great leader, organizer, and Jegna, the most honorable Marcus Garvey said that disorganization is the chief enemy of Negro people. You know, they used the word Negro back then. So,
Right, right,
and I have to tell you, in my 50 years on this planet, the more I live, the longer I observe, the more I go through. I say that brother was right. They kill us with organization on their end and gross disorganization on our end. I'm talking
right,
about from basic, what is your day? What you going to do today? What's your plan to do it? What schedule do you have? Have you even thought about it? On the simplest level, all the way to what's your business plan? What's your organizational plan? What type of children do we want to produce, and what are the parental practices that will create those children? On every level, we suffer from mass disorganization. And it's not that the crackers are better than us, Brother Joseph. They're not smarter than us. They may have a few more resources that they stole from us, but
right.
we have the capability to do whatever we want to do, but we do need to organize it. Now, so that's talking about mental organization. I know I have this paper due in 4 weeks in my college class. Do I start on it the day before it's due? Do I do I start gathering my materials that same day? Do I
Right.
do a little bit every day? So we can look at it on a basic level, or community wide. We can look at it as the difference between those who are in the bar, beauty salon, and barbershop complaining about the atrocities they see perpetrated against Black people versus those people who see those same atrocities but build institutions, man, create agendas, hold town hall meetings, and organize resources to address the issue. So really, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
agree. I agree. We're in a unique position here in the state of Florida because we may have the first Black governor.
mm,
And this governor, he's from Miami, but he's a FAMU graduate and he's worked in the city government for the last 15, 16, 17 years, was just the mayor, has a chance to be the governor. Now, like you were saying, being organized and ready, because if we're not organized, we won't even be able to take advantage or anything, be able to get anything from this governor who's going to be a Black man who's from, quote unquote, from our backyard. And that's one of the main things I was thinking about. And that's why I really want to talk to you about this, because right now in the state of Florida, Black people have a chance to at least get attention, get something. But with the disorganization or the lack of even thinking about being organized, we will just be another state that just had a Black governor. And I don't want to see my people go through that. So what options or what things in your opinion do you think people could be doing community wise to really get themselves in position to at least get some attention or at least make some type of change from somebody that's going to be in a position that essentially comes from our own backyard?
well, first, Brother Joseph, I would say Black people need to understand what politics really is and
Mm-hmm.
stop
Mm-hmm.
mystifying it and putting all this illusion to it. Our people did not die for the right to vote. That is a myth.
Right. Right.
Historically, in certain historical eras, our people fought and organized for the right to vote because those people felt that voting was a key weapon in our arsenal. But all Black people were not focused on voting. So that's the first thing. Some Black people were talking about using radical speech, radical writing, grassroots politics, coalition building, building cooperative businesses and having an economic engine as a way to rise up out of our enslavement. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to tell people that politics you should not allow people who don't understand something to explain it to you.
Right.
That's going to
That's
hurt some
basic.
people's
Right.
feelings.
Right.
But, you know, when you want to get physically fit, you go to the brother and sister that's going to the gym.
Right.
That knows about it. You don't go to the brother that got the blunt in his mouth and the 40 and is out of shape and can't do 5 push-ups. You're going to get misinformation from them. So the first thing is let's go to correct and credible sources. Politics is not about pulling levers, family. It's not about pushing buttons. The politics begins when an indigenous people meets and develops its own independent agenda. That's politics. They say these are the things that are important to us with respect to health, public safety, culture, education, sanitation, whatever, and economics. And then those people set out to find people in the community who they trust, who have demonstrated consciousness, competence, and commitment to the people, and they vet them to run for an office. That's the first thing. We do it backwards. We let popcorn peanut Negroes and white folk come to us. I'm going to run for this. Well, what have you done? Did you get our permission? Did you get our blessing? We don't even know who you are, right? So the first thing is that should be something that we decide in-house. We might say, so now this is our community agenda. We need Black people that's going to get in office and fight to fulfill this agenda. Can the community come up with a list of names of people who've displayed the character and the integrity and whatever to do this? Oh yeah, I think Joseph Ward. So now we go to Joseph Ward with this agenda. We go to whoever else the community decides with this agenda. And we say, if you're willing to sign off on this agenda and run, you will have our complete community support.
Right.
We don't do it that way, but that to me should be done. Secondly, brother Joseph, that's not enough, because if you watch The Godfather 1 and 2, this is going to hurt more people's feelings. You're going to understand what politics really is. Politics requires you to roll up your sleeves and be prepared to threaten the safety, the image, the finances, and disrupt business as usual in order to get the things you want. And if you're dealing with a group of people who was taught politics from their social studies textbook in 8th grade, you're not going to get power.
Right.
Study Godfather 1 and 2. The director didn't want to use this dude in his movie, and he refused. It was only when he woke up and hit the head of his favorite horse was in his bed that he came back and said he has the part.
Yeah.
You understand? We don't have power to threaten. You need power along with the organizing, the intellectual stuff you're doing. Because people just say, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to sign these contracts over to you. We don't want to fix your streets. We don't want to improve your schools. We don't want to teach your history or whatever. So what are you going to have in place that makes people say, yo, you know what? I think we're better off doing this, because if we don't do it, the ramifications and repercussions of it is something we don't want to deal with.
Exactly.
I want to also say, Brother Joe, that you never hear Jewish people marching and protesting, writing or speaking about having a Jewish president in office, do you?
Never heard Asians either.
Okay, and there's a reason. That's because they understand that when you really understand power and how it works, and you can organize, you can provide the things you need for your community, and you can threaten the people in power's image, political and business interests, it doesn't matter who the president is. You bend them to your will. You
Right.
know, you create your lobby groups, you throw money at people. We need to be buying politicians.
Right.
But nobody thinks like that. Oh no, we're gonna appeal. No. Politicians are for sale. Buy them like everybody else does.
Right. It's not a moral game
No,
at
sir.
all.
And
At
if we
all.
go into it with this patty cake baker's man approach, we're never going to be free. You got to go that with money,
Right.
potential military, potential photos to blackmail people. The dude that's
Right.
banging on homosexuals, we got pictures of him engaged in homosexual acts. That's how
Right.
you get them to do your bidding. And we can see that time and time and time again. Until we develop that type of infrastructure, man, it'll be a joke.
Right. Right. Well, see, that's why I wanted you to come and give that medicine that you're giving, because we're not in a time to have things sugar coated to us. And I've always said it. Even last week, I was going crazy because I knew how we were going to vote. I know we don't understand politics. We are so emotional about it. We're fanatical about it. We don't understand that you have to take the muscle approach. You have to take the approach of power. You have to be able to, but you have to be organized to have power. And the base of it is, if you don't have that structure, you can't build anything else upon that. And if that structure has any weaknesses, you're going to fall, especially when you're dealing with, when we're talking about fighting white supremacy, racism. And these people, you study history, these people are ruthless against themselves. So they don't care about us, and they will destroy us to get what they want. And we have to really be able to understand that. And that's why we need to be organized.
Yes, sir.
So so now, once again, the last time we talked, I remember you telling me a story about how you and people you went to University of Syracuse were able to use the power organization to kind of get the agendas passed that you wanted to get passed. And I wanted to see if you wouldn't mind kind of revisiting that story.
Yes, sir. That we called it Operation Infiltration.
Okay.
And what it was that basically when every student enrolled in a university, they had to pay a student fee, which is $100 or whatever. Now, if you
Hmm.
got a university with 16,000 people in it, that's a lot of money.
Right.
So what would happen is there'd be budget hearings to decide how much of this money each student organization would get. So your budget as a student group came from this big pool of money that came out of every student paying their student fee.
Hmm.
So what was happening is that my organization, the Student African American Society, which was basically the Black Student Union of Syracuse University,
Right.
or at Syracuse University, was constantly being threatened to have our budget frozen, to give us $0 because we were the most militant and radical organization on campus. And this, by the way, was the precedent set before I even came on campus. Okay, so it didn't start with me. I just continued it. And so one year, man, every year we'd be protesting, they'd be having sleep-ins at the budget hearings. We said, you know what, man? We tired of having to protest and all that. Let's look at this differently. So we realized that every dormitory had a certain amount of seats or delegates to the student government, which was like
Right.
Congress. And so we said, wait a minute, we could take this whole shit over.
Hmm.
We don't have to just be boycotting and picketing. So we put something in motion. We went to all the dorms. We rallied the Black people. We met with them secretly. We said, we want you to consider running. Long story short, our Operation Infiltration was successful. We basically ran the whole student government assembly. So basically, we was like having almost an all-Black Congress. And these were people who had the right consciousness in place. So we were able not only to give my particular student organization all the money we asked for, but we had secretly met with other Black student organizations. And we're able to get all of our Black organizations down with our coalition all the money they asked for. And some of the white student groups it was suggested their budgets be frozen. So for the first time, I saw white people protesting, brother,
Right.
upset, and black people in power. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. We follow the
Right.
process. Follow the process. You see?
Right.
So yeah, that's basically what happened.
Nah, that's cool. But what once again though, it shows the intelligence of organization and the power of it and why it's needed rather than us just trying to wing it every time. Because think about it, when something happens to us, our go-to move is a march. And white people know that. White supremacists know that because they engineered us to behave in these manners. So they understand that when we get mad, we're just gonna march. We might rally. Somebody gonna go on CNN and yell and all those things. But in the end, it's a 2 week flare up. Then everybody goes back to business as usual until it happens again. And then we wonder why our women and children are constantly under attack. There's no consequence to anything happening to us. But to me, that's where organization comes in. Because if certain groups of people know who to mess with, who not to mess with. If you're gonna go after the LGBTQ community, you better be ready to fight. But if you go after the black community, you know you can kick them around. I have a problem with that. You know?
I have a problem with that too, my brother. And speaking of what you said, it really becomes a matter of teaching people what I call strategic intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this means the ability or the extent to which you can make high level decisions or organize several moves ahead without emotion, without ego, and without selfishness. So that is to say, that's just what we did with Operation Infiltration. We had to create a coalition of black students. We had to train them on what we were trying to do. We had to give them a vision and say, listen, if you guys get in office, we can exert power and we would no longer be begging to get money that we deserve to get.
Right.
But it's so, yes, I agree. Strategic intelligence, playing chess, good brother.
Yes.
We get caught up in ego and who gets to speak in front of the people, who's popular.
Yeah.
But then there's people like myself and you, brother Joe. I don't care who's on TV, man. I want to win, brother. I want a
Right.
championship. I'm tired of seeing us begging and walking around poor and evicted and can't get the things we need, while people who are not better intrinsically than we are chilling. I'm tired of that. So I'm willing to play the back seat. I'm willing to be quiet. I'm willing to play my position so we can win. We have a group of people in leadership who they don't really want black liberation. They
Right.
want to be seen. They want sexual favor. They want money. You know, I want to win. I want
Yes.
to be free.
Yes. But that goes back to what you were talking about having homegrown candidates, people that the community and the people put into these positions with a specific agenda for our people. Because I'm tired of going to these websites for these people who supposedly fighting for our community. But when you look at their agendas, they can specifically call out immigrants, LGBTQ, women, and all these other specific groups, but then will look you in your face and tell you that they can't specifically help black people. And I'm like, so how does that work? Like, how does that logic even go through your mind unless, oh, you had no intentions of fighting for our community in the first place? It was just fluff. You target us to get what you need, and then you go out and carry out these other agendas. So it goes back to us putting the people in these positions across the board who have our best agenda because we grew these people from the ground up. It was real grassroots work.
Now remember, brother, there's another element I'm putting on the table, and this
Okay.
element a lot of our people don't like to talk about, but serious study will bear what I'm saying to be true. You
Mhm.
cannot forget the black underworld's role in this.
Okay.
I'm gonna say that again because the people gonna be upset with the brother again. It's okay, family. It's all right. I'm used to it. We have to study the historical marriage between the black political above ground world
Hmm.
and the black underworld.
Okay.
If we study that, we're going to see Black people couldn't go to banks. Black people didn't have no white philanthropy in the mid 19th century, 18th century. We had to build our own bank. Well, how did we do that? We had the brothers that was running numbers.
Mm-hmm.
We had the sisters and brothers involved with prostitution. This is real talk.
Right.
All over the country that would funnel some of that quote unquote dirty money into legitimate organizations. So, for instance, there's a brother named Casper Holstein in Harlem who was a big time numbers banker, right? He helped bankroll Marcus Garvey's UNIA organization. He helped bankroll the entire Harlem Renaissance and the New Negro movement. Bumpy Johnson would later come and, in similar aspects, throw some of his money and his defense in support of people like Paul Robeson or Malcolm X, people that they were trying to gun down. So what I'm saying is, part of our organization has to be with chess. There's 6 different pieces on the board, Brother Joe. We can't just deal with the one piece. We got a whole black underworld that hate the police, that are anti-authority, that not scared of their laws, and that are armed up. And some of them have some political consciousness and some money. We need to involve that piece as well, all pieces. And don't just shun them.
I mean, it makes sense because when you're, I liken it to when you're watching a movie and they're telling you about the different pieces that they put together to create this army. And it's like a group of mercenaries, or a group of, not necessarily even mercenaries, but a group of people that all of you have a common agenda or common enemy, but you may operate a little different from those people. But since we have this common goal, then hey man, let's work together. We need to work together because we're all going to benefit from this. So I get where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Entertainers, members of our black underworld. In our history, all of these different chess pieces played a part in our movements on the board. And we can't forget these people. The corporate black people that talk like Whitey and got his degrees and wear his clothing and identify with him. Some of them got consciousness. So they become our infiltrators. They become the spooks who sat by the door. So, you know, our movement and struggle has to be really more sophisticated and less, it's very simplistic. You know, I can't go certain places wearing this, Brother Joseph, and people take me seriously. I can't go certain places, go, you know what I'm saying, fam, word, yo. So we use people to play their position. And they report back to the community. That's what other people do.
So, well, in that mindset, because this is a question I've been asking myself, but I think you are the perfect person to ask. Because even using that spook behind the door mindset or logic, being able to go into, what's your thoughts about going into other communities and bringing resources back to our community in the best manner to empower our community? Like, what would be the best way to go about that, or even if that's a smart plan to even have?
Absolutely. I think it would help all of us if we thought of this as a wartime scenario. And all nations have spies. All nations have espionage, people who are seeking intelligence, information about what the enemy, what weapons they have, what's their capability, what's their plans, what's their weaknesses, right? And so, yes, we certainly need to have people that have entry or access into these different sites of power coming back and tell us, yo, they got these weapons and these weapons. They're doing this type of training. You know, these are their weaknesses. Yes, we absolutely need that. We got activists, Brother Joe, that go out in the street. They bang on the police. They like F the police and no justice, no peace. But guess what? What if those police start firing on all those activists? What they gonna do? Run? They're gonna run and get shot. They need to be thinking like the Deacons for Defense and Justice, who would form perimeters around people like Dr. King and these nonviolent direct activists, action activists, so that they had some level of protection. But
Right.
because we're not thinking like chess and using these different pieces, we setting ourselves up for slaughter. Right when the cracker takes the gloves off, man, and starts shooting protesters, then maybe we're gonna see, yo, we need to send these people in with knowledge of the weapons that they're gonna use against them. Are you
Right.
prepared to get that mustard gas when they send it out? Are you prepared for the way they're gonna form and move against you?
Right.
Are
Yeah.
you prepared? You see, this is what I mean, down to the basic level. And if you're gonna be that type of activist, that means you got to be prepared to deal with everything the enemy is going to bring to you.
Right.
Everything. Legal observers, people there to protect you in case they start shooting. You know, Biggie Smalls said it. Our famous African philosopher, Biggie Smalls, he said in his song, The Warning, there's going to be a lot of slow singing and
Flower
flower
bring.
bringing if my burglar alarm starts ringing.
Right.
Very simple. He's giving you an idea that I have set a policy about something important to me. The sanctity and privacy of my home is important to me. And those who violate that are going to they're going to have a funeral, right? So when you hear that, you was thinking of bringing it in his house, Brother Joe. You now like, maybe that's not a good idea. We don't
Right.
have that. We don't have that, brother. We're like the laughing stocks of the world. It's becoming known around the whole world when they drag that sister damn near out her dress in that Waffle House because
Yes.
she wants utensils, plastic utensils. And they're humiliating sisters and brothers and elders now and
They
little
are.
kids
They
everywhere.
are.
And we're not really confronting it effectively. This is being broadcast all over the world. Like, yo, these Negroes, you can do whatever you want to them and you can get away with it.
I hate it. I
You
hate
know,
it.
the FBI reported in 2006 that white supremacist organizations had thoroughly infiltrated police departments around the country.
Yes. They have. They have.
Okay, now
But yeah.
you see how they're thinking strategically. On our
Mm-hmm.
side, we got people saying, oh no, don't mess with the police, don't ever talk. How ignorant is that? We supposed to be flooding the police with black people with consciousness so that we have information so that we got people there that's looking out for us. But because we're
Right.
not looking like war, like this is a wartime scenario, it's like we're not getting it. We're not getting the game. We're playing checkers and other people playing chess 30 moves ahead, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's true because I know when I think about our, like you said, our history with the police and how these groups are flooding the police ranks. I've had a video on here where I went through the history of the relationships between African people, black people with the police, and it was never good, So, and having conversations with other people, because I meet people all the time who say they want to be police officers, but they're going in as an individual into a broader system that already exists with no resources to help them do anything positive other than just become a part of the system. And that goes back to what you were saying. If you were part of a group of people who being strategically put in these places, then it will work. But I say it all the time. Black people are at the chessboard with Uno cards in their hand turned backwards and wonder
Mm,
why people know our moves,
mm, mm,
right?
mm.
Because we're constantly with the same mindsets, constantly doing the same thing over
I
and
like your
over and
analogy,
over and
brother.
over again.
I like that. Mm,
It's because
mm,
I feel like if we really understood that we're not even playing the right game, in the game that we
mm,
are playing, we still
mm.
showing our hand.
Yes, sir.
That's a problem. We will never get to where we need to go. We will never really reach liberation. We're gonna stay on this hamster wheel over and over and over and over again, and just wishing, screaming, and then going back to what you were saying about the protesters in the street. I get nervous when I see these videos, or if I see people confronting the police, men, women, elders. And I know these people have no training or organization to defend themselves. And they think that just because I'm yelling at you, then I'm winning. That doesn't happen, because if those officers decide to get physical with you all, they have more resources, more weapon, more organization, more tact, because they're gonna make these formations. Because you always sit on the video, they come in those lines and they start to crashing in on the people with those shields, and it's over from there, because the people are, they're just out there in the mass, and there's nothing that they can do. And I wish we would take organization way more serious, because we're going to start losing a lot of lives if they decide to get real stupid.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think the spike in killings of Black people by law enforcement officers has to be directly correlated to all those white supremacists that infiltrated the police department around the country.
Right.
They say, wait a minute, you mean we can get a salary, we can get benefits, and we can kill niggas too?
Right.
And get away? They were being what? Strategic.
Yep. Yep.
We got Negroes in our camp that's going, no, you can't talk to the police. You can't. Listen, man, if they're occupying force, we need to infiltrate. We need information. We need data. We need to know weaponry. How will we deal with that? And I want to be clear. There's a difference between joining something for a job and infiltrating in something.
Right.
You can join something because you need to work, right? We got people to go to the military, not because they want to be super patriots for the United States, but because they may have scarce formal education. They may feel like, well, this is a way I could travel. I can earn a little money and I can learn languages and become a man or woman. So they join. But we need people who join the military specifically to find out what's the weaponry? How do you use it? How do we do offensive, defensive maneuvers?
Right.
What is the enemy plotting, and come back to the community? Our problem is our people assimilate, brother. They don't infiltrate, they assimilate. And it's killing us, because America's getting our best and brightest tacticians, engineers, educators, writers, and we're left with whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I want people listening and watching know, I'm not suggesting you assimilate. We're doing that already. Right. You're going to be a corrections officer, go in there, get that information, get it, and come back out and hold classes with your community. You got to do this strategically. You're not going to announce this on Facebook, right? But you're going to meet with people and you're going to teach them. This is how you hold. These are the defensive positions we use to break people down. This is how we come together in a wedge so you can't penetrate. And this is how you penetrate. You see, that's what I'm suggesting. And brother, I have to say, Malcolm was right. He said, a lot of people using this word revolution, they're not ready for that. They shouldn't use that word. Because if people are not afraid to get dirty, Brother Joseph, people got to get bloody like this.
They're bloody.
The 13 colonies that fought that American Revolution and became this United States of America, if they had lost that revolution, they would have, all the leaders would have been hung.
Yeah.
They were considered what?
Traitors.
So they took risk. If they had lost, George Washington, all the people that we worship so much, the white founding fathers, would have been hung as traitors, right? So it's the same thing. If people are not willing to take those positions, then we're going to be maybe better dressed slaves, more eloquent slaves, more wealthy slaves, but slaves on the United States corporate plantation, nevertheless.
Yeah, that's true. You have to be willing to kick up dust, and if you're not willing to do that, you're not gonna get real change. So let me ask you about this as another aspect of being organized, because I always see there's a call for male teachers in school, black male teachers in school, and once again, in my mind, if you take the right black male teachers and put them in specific schools, or even the community does something like what you did with the Harlem Liberation School, create your own institutions, creating those things. That way we could better be able to, because I think it'll work way better in our own institutions. But way better be able to teach the mindset, those militaristic mindsets, of moving forward and protecting our communities, because how you learn, you know, with the patterns of pictures and sounds and all those things, and how we learn and the information that we take in when we're learning, that helps or hurts the way we use strategy moving forward, in my opinion. What's your opinion on that?
Well, teaching and education is a discipline.
Mm-hmm.
It's a discipline. It's not something everybody can just jump in. I think there's a false presumption that education, like any other discipline, anybody could just jump in it and start to know.
Right, you shouldn't do
Wrong.
that. Right.
It is an art and a science, just like engineering, just like law, just like physics, just like any of these other things. And just in the same way that you wouldn't have a non-mechanical engineer and architect build you a building or a bridge, in the same way you wouldn't have somebody with no law degree, no law experience represent you in court. In the same way you wouldn't have somebody that never went to medical school, knows nothing about the anatomy, do a surgery on you. It's the
Right.
same way with teaching. I don't think we value education enough. We think it's a one size fits all, that if you speak well, or if you traveled and you know languages, or you seem intelligent, you could throw you in a class and you could be a teacher. Wrong. Completely wrong. I've seen very intelligent people, they can't hang in that classroom because
Right.
you got 25 different personalities in there, busting with hormones and energy.
Yep. Yep.
Some of them ain't eating. Some of them being sexually abused. Some of them are being neglected. All of them got different personalities and interests. And you got to be able to manage and master that
Yep. Yep.
and teach them at the same time, not take up your whole class time with disciplining a kid. You got to know how to do that so smooth that you're not even addressing brother Tay Tay. You standing by him with your hand on his shoulder. So now he stops acting up because he knows you're right there watching him. And you keep
Right.
teaching. That's an art. That takes finesse and knowledge. So the first thing is that I think we need to raise education up to a higher level of priority and give it the respect it deserves. And then I think that we need to fight to make sure that teachers have better incomes, um,
Mm-hmm.
and that a more high status. In our ancient land, teachers were highly revered and respected. Highly revered and respected. It has kind of changed here in this country, in this
Right.
dynamic. They don't have a lot of status no more, but they should, because you know
You
what,
should.
Brother Joe? You may have dealt with a lawyer in your life. You may have dealt with a physicist. Maybe you've met an engineer, but I know for a fact you dealt with a teacher, correct?
Yep. Yep.
Everybody dealt with teachers, right? It's the
Everybody.
universal thing. You all came through a teacher somewhere, somehow. It's the
Yep.
universal. It's almost like maybe a dentist or doctor. And some people couldn't afford to go to the doctor, but everybody was in some type of schooling.
Right.
So I think we need to take that more seriously. First of all, we need to understand education is a science and art. It's a discipline. We're talking about knowing your content, knowing how to write a lesson plan that's cogent, knowing how to teach it and pace your lesson so you get everything discussed in that 45-minute period. Classroom management, right?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing
Mm-hmm.
different learning styles and knowing how to appeal to different students based on their learning style. That's a lot. And I think the average person, they can just jump in. Even people with a lot of knowledge, Brother Joe, in
Yes.
history, that doesn't mean they're going to be a good social studies teacher, because
Nah, it doesn't.
they're like, this one's talking, stop, chill. They're addressing this, and then something's going on over there, right? They don't
Right.
know. So I think the first thing is to really have a better value for what education is. And the second thing is to know that our education must be liberatory. It has to be revolutionary. It can't be, we're going to school so you can get a good job. We got to murder that thought, murder it, decapitate it. Education is supposed to empower you to be a sentient, fully functioning being that can make good decisions, that has emotional intelligence, strategic intelligence, and that sees yourself as being culturally connected to your people,
Right.
right? And then, of course, you develop a skill set and a certain knowledge base. So yeah, taking care of yourself and all that should be, I guess I want to say, a foregone conclusion. But we've been teaching you're going to school to get it. No, you're not going to school to get a job. You're going to
Right.
school to build a nation. You're going to school to learn how to build a nation. And
Right.
yes, paying your bills and having money in your bank is part of that, but don't get stuck there because there's so much more we could do if we
Yeah.
taught the value of education more importantly.
Yeah. See, and it's I like the way you put that because I didn't get that type of education until I got to college, and specifically, FAMU psychology department is the only African-centered psychology department in the nation, and I had no idea that that was what I was getting into when I changed my major to psychology. I'm glad I did though. I'm so glad I did because I think that was the foundation of what led me to be able to do this, what I'm doing today. But everything that you talked about that should be into education, it was in that program. That's the only time in my life I've enjoyed learning.
Mm.
And because it
You
was
talking about in
focused on
college?
building us up. Right. And
Wow,
so,
all those years. Look at that.
right, like
Wow.
preschool and kindergarten, you playing and stuff, but when it comes to like real
Right.
learning, I hated school. I
Mm.
almost dropped out of college maybe 12 times.
Mm.
But until I got into that psychology department and it started to make me feel better as a black person, as an African person, as a man, and being able to build all those things up, that's when education became fun to me and I started to really click. I started to read more and build myself up. So to me, I when you said that, it hit home because whenever you have a chance to really learn, not just be in the educational setting or in that formal setting, whatever they want to call it, but to really learn and really understand what empowerment really is, you've been cheated.
That's right. And I'm gonna say, brother Joe, that Farrakhan is famous for saying we got people with doctorate degrees, call themselves doctor, and they have no cure for any
Right.
social, political, economic ailment. We got people with master's degrees and they have no mastery of anything regarding black people. And so I'm proud to say,
Mm.
and I say this not to be braggadocious, but to inspire people watching this. This is what a real education will do. I'm proud to say that when I was a New York City public school teacher working in a school that was supposed to be so great, but seeing how they were
Mm-hmm.
dehumanizing our kids, we left that school and created a new middle school. So people know me for Harlem Liberation School, but they don't know I created an actual middle school in the Board of Ed in New York City that's now 18 years old, right?
Right.
And that came from teachers who had a sensitivity to their people and who were really educated, meaning we were able to see a problem, diagnose how it's affecting our people, and create an alternative. You see, that's what education does. That's what
Right.
it's supposed to do. And from that school, we all derived what? Money, income to pay our
Mm-hmm.
bills. You see, so that's how I see it. You can sustain yourself and you can sustain your community all at the same time, but it's not either or. Because if you're not eating, if you're not healing, your body is you broke.
Right. I think you
You stay
froze.
stuck there, right? That's the African way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So before we kind of get to the end of this, could you? We keep mentioning the Harlem Liberation School. Could you give the people more information about the Harlem Liberation School, why you started, and kind of things that you've been doing over the years?
Yes, sir. Harlem Liberation School is approaching its third cycle. We generally operate around the general school calendar. So generally we start our cycle in the fall, and then we'll acknowledge the European holidays that our people, you know, don't go to school, don't go to work, have their cookouts or whatever.
Right.
And then in the summer, we take a break to reorganize, retool, and come back for the next cycle. We're here to teach our people Black political education. We feel it's the most underrated, underestimated, yet most foundational piece of revolution. You can't go to war and you don't even know the terrain that you're fighting on. Over there is forest, over here is desert, over here is a plateau. You're not accustomed. You don't have the right clothing. You don't have the right weaponry. You don't know how to use the weaponry. You don't know how to differentiate the people in your team from the enemy. You don't know non-verbal communication. So you got to be like, yo, Joe, watch out.
Right.
And then me yelling at the enemy now knows who you are, shoots us both. So the education is not everything, but it's the most foundational. It's the thing upon which everything else stands. So we're here to teach our people, listen, we got to practice wukusu. Wake up, clean up, and stand up. We're teaching people how to wake up and clean up, good brother, so that when we stand up, it's effective and it's not short-lived. And so we're going to be coming back most likely in October, rolling out a community organizing course and curriculum to show our people in real time, in a boots on the ground way. Okay, how do we start a community petition? How do we canvass our community? Knocking on doors, going to people on the street corner, educating them, getting them to sign things, giving them leaflets and information, all of these different things, the tools of the trade, so to speak. And you can find us simply by typing in Harlem Liberation School on Google. You'll come right to it. You'll come right to it.
Yes, sir.
And we're doing important work, family. Don't think that something has to be giving you great money or sex or status in the white man's corporate media for what you're doing to be important. Get out of the Europeans' way of thinking. There's a lot of important things people are doing for you and me, and it has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with status, medals, and get newspaper coverage, family. But it's saving our very lives.
Right.
And changing the composition of how we think, helping us raise our families get stronger. You feel me? And our organizational infrastructure.
Yes,
So that's
sir.
what we about, Brother Joe. That's what we about, man.
I appreciate that. But it also gets that mindset of, like you were talking about earlier, of keeping resources within our community, especially our most valuable resource, which is our human resources. Stop sending your kids to these white schools. Send your kids to these Black institutions and make sure you hold these Black institutions accountable for building these children up so they can become responsible and assets to our own community. Because what we cannot do is continue to send our human resources to our enemies and then wonder why we don't have what we need. So that's why the Harlem Liberation School is important. Yes, sir. I appreciate you, my brother. I really do. Every time you and I get together, we have a great conversation. Great information is given. You always just dropping jewels every time you open your mouth. I appreciate everything that you do, even your early bird specials that you do in the morning on Facebook. So you all make sure y'all catch him on Facebook, brother Agyei Tyehimba. He's everywhere. Go subscribe to the Harlem Liberation School YouTube channel. Go do that right now. Right now. Subscribe to it because he needs to be supported and people need to hear the information that he has. So I don't want to hold you up no longer, but I appreciate everything that you do. And I always appreciate when you give your time, especially on my platforms, to give your information.
Wukusu Ashe, family. Salute,
Yes, sir.
soldier.
Yes, sir. Wukusu. All right. We'll see y'all later. Peace out.